I'm Catherine Carlozzi, and you're listening to DIY World Improvement, the show about people who are rolling up their sleeves and fixing the world themselves, one project at a time. A number of my previous guests have built programs around the idea that if you want to make headway on eradicating poverty in developing nations, you educate the girls and young women who are tomorrow's mothers. Education gives every girl a chance to be first. That's the motto of a program called She's the First. It's the brainchild of a Jersey girl from South Brunswick named Tammy Tibbetts. At the time she had this brainstorm, Tammy was working as web editor at Hearst Digital Media, where she was responsible for launching the charitable DonateMyDress.org network, the Ultimate Prom franchise, and also MissQuinceMag.com. Now, nobody I know multitasks better than Tammy. In her spare, quote-unquote, time, she was directing a foundation that supports the education of orphans and abandoned children in Liberia. In a few minutes, she'll talk about how all of this led to She's the First. I met Tammy when she was a journalism student at the College of New Jersey and had received a scholarship from the New York Women in Communications Foundation. It happened to be a scholarship in memory of Ruth Whitney, the legendary editor-in-chief of Glamour magazine who helped promote the concept of feminism in its early days. Very appropriately, because Tammy will tell you she's on a life mission to uphold the mantra of style and substance Whitney exemplified. When she isn't directing She's the First, Tammy freelances in social media for a magazine publisher, and we now serve on the New York Wiki Foundation board together. Kaitlin Davis serves as an ambassador for She's the First. In her day job, she's the coordinator of marketing and promotions at Music Theater International, the world's premier licensing agency. Kaitlin has an extensive background in the performing arts and previously worked with the Disney Theatrical Group and Rosie's Broadway Kids. Another Jersey girl from Millville, she's choreographed more than 25 musicals throughout the southern part of our state and has also performed at Carnegie Hall. But hey, that's not all. Kaitlin is the reigning Miss Cape Shores and finished in the top 10 at Miss New Jersey last year. She's a graduate of Fordham University's honors program with a degree in communication and media studies. I sat down with Tammy and Kaitlin in the city on a recent Saturday morning over a cup of coffee. What inspired you to create She's the First? Talk about the genesis of the idea.
Well, I guess it originally started in my senior year of college, where I was doing a reporting assignment. It was a story on an alumna of my college, Magdala Cooper, who was a refugee of the Liberian Civil War, and she had started a foundation based here in New York that supported abandoned children of the war. And it also had an education sponsorship program. So as I got involved in that organization, I saw how transformative an education sponsorship could be for a child. And then simultaneously, I was reading Nicholas Kristof's coverage, which amounted to the book Half the Sky, and saw the launch of the Girl Effect PSA video that you mentioned, and coupled that with my experience that I was having at Hearst with DonateMyDress.org, which we started in April of 2008, and it just became such a huge success, this concept of having a media campaign that got a very simple message across, like have a dress that you're not going to wear again, donate it to a girl in need. And it referred people to a directory of local small organizations that were on the ground doing that.
I remember you got me to donate one of mine.
Yeah, see, we all have our closet full of them.
Worked.
So two very different organizations, one for a third world country, another prom dresses, but I thought, what if we merged, in my personal life, I wanted to put a project together where we merged the structure of Donate My Dress as a media campaign and directory with the concept of finding other organizations like Magdala Cooper's that had sponsorship programs.
And you talk about She's the First as a media campaign, as an umbrella organization, and as a grassroots effort. How exactly does all of this fit together?
Well, it started as a media campaign when we launched it on she'sthefirst.org with a video with a young teen celebrity, JoJo. She's a singer. And we made that the focal point of our call to action, where she, in Boston, we did this video shoot with her and other young women, millennials, who were making these statements of showing girls saying that she could be the first woman president in her country. She could be the first female doctor of her village. And then we got that video out into the digital world with our Twitter page and our Facebook page, and kept building our social network to drive that offline action. And then as the brand of She's the First started resonating with young women more and more, because it means the girls you're supporting are most likely going to be the first in their family to graduate. Some of them are the first to even read and write in their families. But you think about, what are you the first to do? And Kathy, you could answer this later too, because when you think about what that is, it probably happened because you went to school and had an education. So as that, our brand is so strong with the millennial audience, we realize that now it's time to become a 501c3 organization ourselves, because when you're doing good in the world, you have to also be very transparent and think like a business as well, and track your numbers carefully. And that's what being a 501c3 and being registered with the IRS will do for you. It's total transparency. And then grassroots in that our impact is not just what the leadership team in New York City does. It's open-ended, so anyone can have an independently organized fundraiser with their friends, a dinner party where everyone has a suggested donation of $15. And that's not any more than a young person would spend going out to dinner and the movies. It might even be less.
Right.
Or a poker night where instead of everyone, winning money for themselves, they're giving a suggested donation that ends up sponsoring a few girls.
Or a birthday party instead of gifts.
Exactly. So all of that merges together, and through the magic of social media, we're able to discover new supporters, and the ones that we have keep this really strong bond with each other online that then achieves such an impact offline in our own communities as we grow as global leaders, but then in effect on the girls we're sending to school, who are then going to have their own ripple effect on their communities.
So if I understand this correctly, you have 13 programs or schools or foundations that your organization funds. And I know that 8 of them are in Africa. They're in Ethiopia, Kenya, Malawi, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda. 3 are in Asia, in India, Nepal, and West Timor. And then there's 1 each in Guatemala and Haiti. So how do you make the selections of these schools and programs and foundations? And then how does it work in terms of funding? Are you funding individual students? Are you channeling funding, broadly to the programs or the schools? How does it work?
Well, this is a very rigorous process, which I give full credit to my executive director, Kristen Brandt, because it's her job to be the gatekeeper of this directory. And every partner that we put in it has gone through a rigorous interview process. They've given us their financial documents, their 990 forms, their annual reports, and we've studied their numbers to ensure that as an organization they're not spending more than they're bringing in, and that they're not spending too much on overhead, so they're in financial good standing. And then their programs, they tell us exactly how the Girl Sponsorship Program works, what is the breakdown of the tuition dollars. They agree that any money coming from She's the First will only go to girls sponsorship, and that they will not take any overhead fees out for their own organization's administration. And they will allow our research team to check in with them quarterly and send us updates and photos of the girls so that we could fuel our storytelling on she'sthefirst.org. And one of the criteria that we really look for, and has been a reason that we've turned away some partners who wanted to join, is that they must demonstrate involvement with the local community in the country that they work in. Because sadly there are organizations that have really good intentions, they're not corrupt, they're not stealing money from their donors, but they're not implementing it in the most effective way. Because you can go in and build a school and run a program, but if you're not taking local women from the community to be mentors to the girls, if you're not working with the community to keep that school running, then it's not going to be around in 10, 15, 20 years.
So it needs to be organic and it needs to be sustainable.
Yes, so we believe 100% in our partners, and they excel in the work that they do, their operations on the ground, and we excel in media and storytelling and social networking and event planning, which may be weaknesses of theirs. So we come together and we complement each other.
That's really amazing. I know that you have something called the First 360 Travel Series, and I know that some of you get on the ground as you're in the vetting process. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, She's the First 360. I would say it's still in its beta stage, but the vision is that we're giving young people the opportunity to visit our partners so they could see for themselves if they have the means to travel, because it's all self-funded, the trips. Right. But our partners, they love the She's the First community so much that they are more than happy to bring us around to meet the girls and even guest teach classes and mentor them directly when given the chance. So we kicked off in Peru this summer, where we were scouting some more, hoping to find some nonprofits that we could partner with.
And I know you were there because I was following your blog while you were there.
Yes. And then Kristen Brandt, Kate Lord, our photographer, and Maisie Page, our researcher from Florida, recently went to Guatemala to visit starfish one by one. And the idea is that, anyone can do it. So far it's just been our leadership team, but it doesn't have to be. And you're collecting photo and video assets to tell a story and take the time to speak with the local community to really learn don't just assume that we know their needs, ask them and be your own reporter while you're also seeing what, even if you don't speak the language, what could you do to show the girls that you believe in them.
And also MissKinseyMag.com. Now, nobody I know multitasks better than Tammy. In her spare, quote-unquote, time, she was directing a foundation that supports the education of orphans and abandoned children in Liberia. In a few minutes, she'll talk about how all of this led to She's the First. I'm Catherine Carlozzi, and you're listening to DIY World Improvement, the show about people who are rolling up their sleeves and fixing the world themselves, one project at a time. A number of my previous guests have built programs around the idea that if you want to make headway on eradicating poverty in developing nations, you educate the girls and young women who are tomorrow's mothers. Education gives every girl a chance to be first. That's the motto of a program called She's the First. I met Tammy when she was a journalism student at the College of New Jersey and had received a scholarship from the New York Women in Communications Foundation. It happened to be a scholarship in memory of Ruth Whitney, the legendary editor-in-chief of Glamour magazine who helped promote the concept of feminism in its early days. Very appropriate. It's the brainchild of a Jersey girl from South Brunswick named Tammy Tibbetts. At the time she had this brainstorm, Tammy was working as web editor at Hearst Digital Media, where she was responsible for launching the charitable DonateMyDress.org network, the Ultimate Prom franchise, and